Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
Hi, I'm Jessica, a woman in her 30s living in a peaceful San Francisco suburb. Even though I'm married with a child, I still feel incredibly youthful inside, with an undeniable passion for life. Lately, I've found myself drawn to younger men, often catching myself lost in daydreams about them. Recently, these fantasies became reality, and today I'm sharing my secret story, something I've never revealed to anyone. My life took an unexpected turn after getting pregnant right after my wedding. My body went through a complete transformation post-pregnancy. I saw numbers on the scale I never imagined possible, and looking in the mirror became a daily struggle. During my days working on Wall Street, I used to turn heads wherever I went, but that self-assurance disappeared completely. The impact went beyond just my confidence. My entire self-image shattered. Don't misunderstand. I cherish my marriage. But going through these changes myself helped me understand why so many young women today hesitate about marriage. Yes, marriage and motherhood are beautiful experiences, but they demand real sacrifices, especially from women. Between caring for my baby and running the household, I couldn't even spare a moment for myself. As my weight increased and my appearance changed, my husband Mike's attitude shifted too. He started avoiding bedroom intimacy, and I noticed him pulling back whenever I tried to be close. What really broke me was when Sarah's daughter from next door called me a pig. It's amazing how a child's simple words can hurt so deeply. I realized I needed to make changes. I wanted to reclaim my confident self. Exercise seemed like the obvious solution, but I was basically a beginner. Just occasional park walks and light jogs. This time, I needed a serious workout plan. Though I felt overwhelmed about where to start, I was completely committed to making a change. That's when I got lucky at my local mothers group. One member shared her success with personal training at a nearby gym. She dropped 22 pounds just by showing up every day, partly thanks to her attractive trainer's motivation. That instantly caught my interest. While I wasn't entirely sure what personal training involved, the idea of one-on-one professional guidance really excited me. Personal training has become super popular lately, part of the whole fitness trend. I'd heard that most trainers keep themselves in amazing shape through their own workouts, which seemed like great motivation. While I secretly wished for an attractive trainer, I figured anyone would help me work harder than exercising alone. I went to the gym feeling optimistic. The first meeting was disappointing though. Instead of the young, handsome trainer I'd imagined, I met with a middle-aged consultant. I felt kind of foolish thinking about how I'd spent the night before dreaming about working with some young fitness model. But fortune smiled on me. Right before finishing up, the middle-aged manager John said he'd connect me with another trainer. That's when Brandon appeared. Young and stunning, exactly like I'd imagined. He had a perfect athletic physique and the most welcoming smile, speaking with such a gentle voice. My heart fluttered as he kept eye contact during our entire conversation. I signed up for personal training right then and there. Just the thought of seeing Brandon daily made me nervous with excitement. The cost was pretty high, but luckily my husband agreed to pay without many questions. Thanks to my husband's generosity, I jumped right into my fitness journey. Walking into my first personal training session, I had no idea what I was in for. After being inactive for so long after having my baby, even the simplest exercises Brandon showed me felt impossible. Despite my struggles, Brandon kept encouraging me throughout the session. When he saw me getting exhausted and losing confidence, he walked over and gently squeezed my shoulder. "Mrs. Wilson," he said softly, "everyone finds it tough at first. Let's take baby steps." That small act of kindness gave me the push I needed. But when his hand touched my shoulder, something unexpected happened. My pulse quickened at his touch. He must have noticed how flustered I got because he flashed me this shy smile. Standing there in the warm sunshine streaming through the gym windows, that smile made my heart do backflips. Over the next few sessions, his touches became more frequent. He'd adjust my form by guiding my arms or rest his hands on my waist and thighs, saying he needed to check my progress. Each touch felt electric, and deep down I knew there was more to it than just training. What really threw me off was how much I enjoyed these moments. My heart would race whenever he touched me, and I'd catch myself sighing softly. Instead of feeling weird about it, I found myself looking forward to his touch more and more. At night, I couldn't get him out of my head. I kept replaying how his hands felt on my body during our workouts. Just thinking about his voice and face made me tingle all over. Even during video chats with my husband while he was away on business trips, I caught myself daydreaming about Brandon. As time went on, Brandon got bolder. He'd grip my hand tight while spotting me on the equipment, or press against my back to fix my squat form, his hands brushing my waist in ways that sent shivers down my spine. I tried telling myself it was just normal trainer stuff, but I knew better. While these moments got my heart racing, the workouts themselves were killer. Brandon pushed me hard, making me lift heavier and heavier weights. Even when I could barely breathe, he'd yell, "Push through it. You've got this," until I finished every single rep. Sometimes the workouts were so tough I'd end up crying, and I'd feel so embarrassed when Brandon saw my tears that I couldn't even look at him. But week after week, I amazed myself by getting stronger and tougher than I ever thought possible. As I got more comfortable working out, Brandon's hands-on approach intensified. His touches around my waist and hips happened more often, and during squats, his hands would brush my chest while positioning my arms, or he'd press his body against mine from behind. He claimed it was to keep your form straight, but we both knew that wasn't the whole story. Everything changed during one session on the Smith machine. I reached for his hand, and he didn't let go. In that moment, we both felt the spark between us. A few days later, after our workout, he casually asked, "Got plans tonight? I know this amazing place by the bay." His invitation caught me totally off guard and sent butterflies through my stomach. Since my husband was away in New York, I said yes, telling myself I'd keep things innocent. But at dinner, one glass of wine led to another, and soon we were sharing the bottle. I'd always thought gym buffs didn't drink, but Brandon raised his glass with a playful smile, saying, "A little red wine never hurt anyone, right?" Under the restaurant's soft lighting, I couldn't take my eyes off him. Even the way he swallowed was mesmerizing. It felt like I was living in some romance movie. The wine made me feel warm and fuzzy, and then he leaned in close and whispered, "Want to come back to my place?" Suddenly, images of my husband and baby flashed through my mind, snapping me back to reality. "I can't," I blurted out, jumping up from the table. After that night, everything went cold. Brandon kept his distance during our sessions, barely touching me even to correct my form. His sudden coldness drove me crazy, and I spent countless nights tossing and turning, missing his touch. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I sent him a DM on Instagram, typing, "I miss you," with shaking hands. His response came right away with a winky face. "Time for a private training session?" Even though I felt guilty about his message, I couldn't resist. That night at his place, I let go of all my inhibitions. "I've wanted you since day one," he whispered as he kissed me, and I admitted breathlessly, "Me too," as we made love until the sun came up. As a devoted CrossFit enthusiast, Brandon's endurance was incredible. He brought the same intensity to our intimate moments as he did to his workouts, never running out of energy. That night was mind-blowing. When I woke up the next morning, every muscle in my body was sore, proof of how passionate we'd been. Even through the aches, I couldn't wipe the smile off my face thinking about what we'd shared. After that, we ditched the gym completely, opting instead for private training sessions at his place where we could let loose. I convinced myself these hookups with Brandon were way better than any regular workout. His young, fit body was addictive, totally different from my husband's, and once I'd had a taste, there was no looking back. But just when I was completely hooked, my prepaid sessions expired. Out of nowhere, Brandon went cold and started treating me like a total stranger. Heartbroken and confused, I showed up at his apartment looking for answers, only to find out he'd vanished without a trace. After everything we'd shared, his ghosting left me feeling used and empty. I spent days walking around in a fog, unable to shake off the hurt. Then life threw me a curveball. I was walking out of Whole Foods when I spotted Brandon leaving the Marriott with another woman my age. My heart dropped as it all clicked. He'd moved on to someone new. The truth hit me like a punch to the gut, leaving me shocked and furious. What really got under my skin was how casual the blonde woman acted when she saw me, like everything was totally normal. I couldn't let it go, so I followed them. When I knocked on their fancy apartment door, Brandon opened it with this knowing smirk, like he'd been waiting for me, and said, "Welcome." Still trying to wrap my head around everything, I walked in. The woman from the hotel was sprawled on the couch in her Gap dress, sipping wine and sizing me up. "Cool as could be," she said. "I know all about you and Brandon, but he's with me now." Her words felt like a slap in the face, but I knew I had to deal with reality. When I asked Brandon what was going on, he just flashed that smile of his and poured some California wine, saying, "Why should anyone have to pick sides? Can't we all have fun together?" His suggestion threw me for a loop at first, but the more I thought about it, his twisted logic started making sense. Turned out the blonde was also married and living in suburban San Francisco, just like me. We were both sneaking around with him while keeping up appearances at home. Brandon had a point. He was young, single, and hot, while we were both married. It seemed kind of crazy for either of us to expect him to be exclusive. After some hesitation, I went along with his suggestion. Our steamy meetups went from 2 to 3, and Brandon later confessed this had been his plan all along. Surprisingly, it didn't feel wrong. Once we got past the awkward stage, I found myself really getting into our unconventional setup. Brandon puts everything into making both of us feel amazing, turning each encounter into something magical. I'm okay sharing him now, even if it's not ideal. These days, I see him every day. Sometimes I feel guilty about it. I know what I'm doing isn't right. But I've gotten so fit from all our workouts and finally feel sexy again. I just can't make myself stop. I need to prove I'm still as hot as I was back in the day and worthy of someone like Brandon. Obviously, I have to keep this all hidden from my husband. But one thing's crystal clear: I can't give up Brandon. That's my story. Thanks for letting me share.